we were just congratulating ourselves on having the wheel and not forgetting it. And look what happened. It's prominently featured.
Thought I was a hero.
Fire that guy. Hello,
Hero
everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Thank you so much for joining us today. Look at that. First Daniel NY1. Pat, my friend, how are you?
It's literally survival of the fittest out here in Sacramento. With the whole week has been like 110, 115, 116 yesterday. Hottest day on record in Sacramento ever.
The coolest day in the future of
Sacramento
summers. You're gonna look back on this and be like, God, it was only 116. We were freezing.
We were complaining about 116. I wish I had grandkids, because then I could tell them, like, back in my day, we went to work in 116 degree weather.
We walked uphill both ways. Yeah. No, it's bleak. It's bad down here in LA also. It was 111 in my car yesterday.
Stop living in your car, Lila.
I know. I just leave my dog and my kids in there. I'm out though. No, it's a joke. It's a total joke. It's pretty hot. I did get, so I know you haven't asked me yet, but 116 reflect the sun. I don't know where you are, but wow, that's crazy hot.
Probably referring to me. Yeah, 116 here.
Sorry, I can't see what the little icon is there next to it. So
I think it's the blown brains.
Got it. Okay. So she's referring to you. You're right. Thank you for explaining it. I need an explainer. Along with my readers, I need
Let me tell you about TikTok.
What are the kids saying these days?
You and I need a TikTok.
Yes, but then if we're going to do TikTok, we actually really then do need some help, I think. And you're right. 116, at least you don't drive UPS trucks. I mean, people are dying in those. God. It's so repellent. They can fit them with cameras to make sure that no one's sleeping on the job or taking a break, but they cannot fit those trucks with air conditioning. I actually didn't know that trucks could be made without air conditioning until just these past few months of reading about this. It's absolutely grotesque.
100%.
Well, I did just want to. We have Jordan Chariton on. He'll be on in a couple minutes. But I did just want to let everybody know I'm very proud of myself. Speaking of technology and having my finger on the pulse, we are available now on Apple iTunes, where all of you listen to podcasts. If you don't have time to watch us live on Wednesdays at 5, you can always tune in on Thursdays. We'll have the podcast release of the previous night's show. But right now, I think we have like 10 or 15 up there, and we are slowly going through the backlog and putting them all up there, just in case you don't get enough of us once a week.
Nice work, Lila.
Thank you.
I went out and bought beer today, so that's what I did while you were doing all that. Glad I could contribute my fair share.
I always have plenty of alcohol. So that was necessary. I'm really glad you took care of that. It was important.
I was on the verge of drinking wine on the show, which I don't think wine and shots are going to go down all that smooth. So
that's the problem. I mean, I love my wine. And as you know, after all my shots here, I will then go to my bottle of Pinot, but to marry them at the same time, I think might be more than my system can handle. In addition to the 116 I would call it triple digit heat, but our president would call it triple figure heat, which we'll get to a little later. All right. So without further ado, we are so excited to have Jordan Chariton of Status Coup on our show today. He is one of the very few independent reporters who is on the ground going where nobody else really goes. We are so grateful to his reporting. I
just want to say there are so few people actually there are 10 million podcasters, ourselves included. But very few people are on the ground actually reporting on current conditions in some of these disastrous places. And Jordan's hitting all the notes, and kudos to that. So no matter what you think of his politics, if you disagree on an issue or whatever, nobody else is doing what Jordan is doing. Literally nobody. So status quo, kudos.
Yeah, go support them. Here's a little overview of what they're doing.
Congratulations for always being somewhere where mainstream media is not.
Jordan Chariton live, status coup in Ottumwa, Iowa, in front of Winter Park High School, Buffalo, New York. Here in Louisville, Kentucky. Here in Flint, Michigan. This was fire. This was absolute fire.
I don't know if Manchin is delusional or if he thinks we're that stupid.
They ran the water for 10 minutes and they told her, oh, the water's fine. But meanwhile, the baby's got blisters everywhere.
When I turn my water on now, you can smell it.
I cry every day because my baby's skin break out. And I feel like that's just not right. They shouldn't have to go through this.
I smell the water as of 6 months ago. It smells like shit. But they say it's safe. They say it's clean.
You intentionally went to her house illegally to serve that illegal warrant. You intentionally murdered her, period.
Since the pandemic, you've been having people getting kicked out of their houses, coming to the park, living under the bridge, and I've been one of them.
We had a pension that was about a third of our predecessors. We had no post-retirement health care.
But in a lot of ways, corporate media had us believing that we're just lucky to have a job.
Of course, parents should have certain rights when it comes to education, but their rights shouldn't endanger students. They know what they're doing, and they are trying to kill us.
It takes everything I've got to keep my skin on my bones from taking a shower and that shit.
It's been 8 years, man. It's been 8 fucking years. I can't take it. My health has gone to hell, and if I die because of this, I'm dead. I'm dead.
Our lives didn't matter at all, and they still don't.
There's a lot of people that are homeless Amazon workers.
Right. At last count, there were about over 100 cars. They're here 24/7. And I feel for them, I'm one of them, so, you know.
If back to normal means we're back to being underpaid, it means we're back to being worked like dogs, it means that they're back to harassing homeless people, you can keep your fucking normal.
So they are now the first unionized Amazon in the country. We covered this from day one when none of these media folks were out here. We were here a year ago. Support this on-the-ground reporting. Please support this reporting. Do you see anybody else doing what we're doing? We care enough to show up. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Quo's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.
Here is the man himself, Jordan Chariton. Thank you so much for coming on today. Wow, that's gives me chills just watching all that. You've done such amazing work these past several years. Thank you.
I'm exhausted watching it.
Oh my God, that's a lot of places and a lot of pain you've explored.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long journey. Sometimes I feel like I'm a very little fish in a big corrupt pond. But yeah, I think over 7 years, my count is loose, but I think I've been to at least 35 states, a whole lot more cities. And, it's a lot of work and sacrifice, and it doesn't stop when you're not on the road because you meet a lot of people who become kind of sources and then friends. And, earlier today, I was on the phone with a source from Flint for 3 hours. It's a lot of stuff people don't see, but yeah, it is definitely needed. And it's it in one way creates an opportunity for Status Quo since we're the only ones really doing it.
Yeah.
And on the other end, it's a shame that so few are doing what we were doing.
It really is. And especially when you're breaking stories and trying to get national attention. And as you were talking about in Mississippi, that, the national news comes for like 3 seconds after you're the one there first, and then they disappear. and that's happened in Flint. What is it, 8 years now?
8.5, yeah.
And they still can't drink the water, bathe in the water, and everyone's just disappeared.
Yeah, it's funny, actually, not funny, but Louis DeAngelis, who's down reporting in Jackson for us, he's been doing a really good job. He called me yesterday, kind of recap his day, and he's like, I used to wonder why you're so angry, and I get it now, because it really takes. You could kind of know that things are fucked up, but it's very different when you're seeing up close. Just, I always say, I just feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Like you're out there seeing corruption, misery, injustice, and then like you go back to the hotel or wherever, and like what the media is covering, it's just like an alternative reality. I knew that they would go. I mean, it's kind of like the mass shootings. Like they'll go for a few days, and it'll be urgent, and then that's it. So he was even telling me he's been hopping around to different water distribution sites today in Jackson, and there's no national media. There's local media, but very little national media. And that's after what? Like this has been out for a week or so. Yeah. So it's not just shameful, but it's also why these problems persist, because when you have media that basically abandons critical stories and then covers it up, that allows government officials to have their way with the people.
Yeah.
And that really is the problem, is that because the mainstream media doesn't cover this stuff, CNN, MSNBC, they're not giving people the empathy they need. They're not knowledgeable enough to know how much they should care about these situations. And a lot of people think, well, I'm a good Democrat because I watch MSNBC all the time. I'm informed, and clearly they aren't. And you can't get change to happen on a national level when you need a federal response to these situations without the whole country putting that pressure on our government, which
I'm actually writing a book right now. I've been trying to write a book for a long time, but it's kind of hard to write a book when you're doing 20 other things. Not succeeding, because every time I try to write, I got to go live or somebody calls me and the day goes away. But part of the book is basically about the media cover up, because I remember in one case, I kind of bit my, held my nose and was going to publish a major story with Newsweek. This was in 2018. For better or worse, I'd rather get stuff published in a mainstream outlet.
Of course,
get more eyeballs, have legal protections if a government official wants to sue me. And Jen and I at the time, who used to be with me at Status Coup, we showed up to Newsweek, and it was like literally explaining to a editor as if I was explaining to a sixth grader, because he was like, yeah, I kind of followed this when it happened, but I don't know anything since then. And that's kind of the recurring theme, not just with Flint, but other stories. The media is basically consolidated in New York City, DC, little pockets, LA, other places. Right. It's mostly cosmopolitan white people with high degrees, making six figures, very disconnected from like Flint or Jackson, Mississippi. Right. It's not that they're horrible people. They're just, I used to be, before I got into any of this, like Team Democrat. Right. I'm embarrassed to say it. I used to love watching Chris Matthews back in the day on MSNBC. Too. Yeah. And I used to just think like, oh, Democrats good, Republicans bad. Yeah. And then through traveling and realizing, oh shit, it's just one big fucking cesspool. But yeah, it's really it's a very, very, I don't think people truly know the full scope of how big a role the media plays in basically keeping the status quo, which is why we called it Status Coup. Because honestly, just in Flint, I can't tell you how many times I've broken a big story. Like I have documents for the criminal investigation. I bring it to the Detroit Free Press, the Detroit News, the Flint Journal, like the biggest outlets in Michigan or national outlets. And just the excuses or bullshit they feed you to basically give you excuses, when the reality is they just don't give a shit.
They just don't give a shit. I wrote something on Twitter, whatever, but about Biden and liberals, and somebody said, well, the situation that's happening in Jackson, and a good Biden liberal supporter, vote blue no matter who, was like, they just got $500 million. You know, like I want to feel a sense of moral rectitude for the fact that I vote straight D down the line, and I'm going to believe the headline and not look at the reality under that. So, you know, you dig a little deeper, and as I, you know, so much of your reporting showed that the money comes, but then the governor either sends it back, right, or it's siphoned off into those sort of like, what do they call, bedroom communities, the suburbs of like very wealthy white places. So, you know, liberals here, oh, a couple $100 million went to fix it, which isn't even enough. And then they just want to kind of wash their hands of it. And if there's no fourth estate reminding people of what's actually happening in the corruption, they are free to go back to sleep.
When I broke a story for Vice a couple of years ago, long story short, former Governor Snyder's right-hand man was offering payoffs to sick residents to keep them quiet in Flint and a whole bunch of stuff. But in that story, I also dug deeper. There was $379 million appropriated from the Michigan state legislature for Flint. $75 million went to Flint. So that's $300 million that went to banks, law firms, nonprofits. Don't even get me started on the nonprofit complex. Donors and fucking farms and God knows. It's all a boondoggle. That's why during the early days of COVID, when Pelosi and the Dems were, you know, we need money for state and local governments, I said, that sounds lovely on its face. But in my experience, when money is earmarked for X, Y, and Z, suddenly it's getting diverted to A, B, and C. The rental relief money that was supposed to go towards actually pay landlords to cover rent for people during COVID. I mean, 90% of it hasn't been spent. Where the fuck is it? So it's a big scam. In the case of Jackson, the governor has vetoed several bills that would have provided Jackson funding for water infrastructure, schools, hospitals, and you know, it's I hate to say it, but he's really just a Klansman in a sweater vest. It is extremely. This is not environmental racism; it's racism. He denied Jackson money for parks and a golf course. In the same budget, he gives money to the white suburbs for the same thing. Blames the black city leadership, even though the state controls the purse strings and isn't giving them the money they need. The EPA warned the governor of Mississippi in 2020 that their water infrastructure is going to fail. And now all of a sudden he's showing up like, we might privatize the whole thing. So that's
really, always the solution, right? Is to privatize it. Yeah.
And so Biden, and also Biden, just so your audience knows, Biden's getting accolades because he, you know, there's a photo with him signing an emergency order. People don't realize, I learned this through Flint, declaring a federal emergency is different than declaring a federal disaster. So Flint never got a disaster declaration. And when you have a disaster declaration, that creates long-term funding. And it gives you more funding right off the bat. So with an emergency declaration, it's very narrow in scope. It'll give you money for a little bit, and then it's like, oh, mission accomplished, the water's fine, which is exactly what they did in Flint. With a disaster declaration, you could have the Army Corps of Engineers in there and dig up the whole fucking city and dig up those pipes. So yeah, people don't know a lot, and I don't even blame the people because their media isn't digging or informing them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute abdication
that's the core
of duty,
of the problem.
right? Yeah.
You need the media to report on the situation because too many people just rely on it. I mean, if you're a normie Democrat, how do you find this information? What's your source for it? You can't. It's not out there unless you search out a show like yours or something. It just doesn't exist. So you're not even aware of it. You might read an article in the New York Times, but then you'll read an opinion piece later on why Republicans are all to blame for everything that's happened there. And that will cancel out the small thing you read last week. You're like, oh yeah, we can just blame the Republicans on this one.
Right. Well, it's even worse than that. In a lot of cases, you'll have places like Politico headline, Flint's water is safe. Why don't the people trust it? From a writer who I could promise you has not stepped foot in Flint and stepped, 1 foot in Flint. There's shit like that all the time, not just about Flint, but again, you have totally disconnected reporters. And part of it also is with media consolidation, 6 multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates, own everything, radio, TV, websites. Places you're not really given the time you used to be given back in the day to really dig into a story. So, you get a lot of bullshit, hot tweets and shit like that, and not like much investigative reporting. So I've spoken with like reporters at corporate outlets that tell me like they've dug something up and they bring it up to editors and the editors kill it. So, and
yeah, it's, I mean, don't you think it's much more than just ratings? Like their excuse is always ratings. Like the public doesn't have an appetite for this story to be prolonged. But we saw back, like, when they covered Trump's podium empty, versus Bernie. I mean, it's not about ratings, in my opinion. Mostly it's corporate interest shutting these things down.
Right.
I mean, I really feel like it has to be
running cover for people who pay them.
I have never, ever believed that the reason these stories don't get attention is because they won't rate. Because in my experience, before YouTube started what it's doing now, which is basically hiding channels like mine and yours in a closet. When I was at the Young Turks in 2016, I was doing this. Obviously Bernie's first campaign helped, but I was at Standing Rock, I was at Flint, I was covering trailer parks, and we grew to 140,000 subscribers in less than a year. Yeah, and TYT was not exactly promoting it, so it was largely just
actual interest in what's happening.
That in a way is the only saving grace I take from our entire situation, is that young people are not as informed as the last generation from watching mainstream media. They're getting their information from other sources, which is why there's incredible demand for what you're doing. If people would fill that gap, I mean, there really is.
You're only one man. You can only do so much, but yes.
Yeah, it's tricky too, because I feel, not to be corny, but I feel most alive, out there. I'm very rejuvenated when I'm on the road. The last reporting trip we did was for like about 8 or 9 days, and we went like Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and just totally popped that bubble that the economy's historically coming back. I mean, it was really, really depressing shit, but really illuminating. We spoke with homeless people, poor people, and people are really struggling, and were struggling before inflation. And that really reinvigorates me. But at the same time, it wears on you. I mean, I'm human. I got a wife, a dog, trying to start a family. And at a certain point, not that I don't want to do this anymore, but, you need balance in your own life. Yeah. And I got to tell you, it has not been easy to find even other reporters. Not a lot of people want to roll up their sleeves and do it. Yeah. In my experience, a lot of people, not that they're bad people, but it seems that the following and growing the ladder, like in terms of followers and things like that, is equal, if not more important than like these kind of stories. And I've also, frankly, dollars and cents, like there are people sitting and having their soul die sitting in a local news outlet who would come work for me, but I don't have 60 grand to pay them a year. Right. So there's a lot of factors, but I'm just going to keep trucking along until I can't keep the lights on anymore.
Well, you are doing amazing work. I think the other thing that must be so frustrating, in addition to taking on and hearing these stories of pain, is that there is not the accountability. Once you expose something, it would be so much more satisfying and rewarding if the federal government steps in, declares it, a disaster, fixes the pipes and the water, and that, but to just keep having to go out there and expose the corruption and the devastation with very little, we're not having the effect that I think we all wish we would on the people who hold the purse strings, who could actually be fixing these situations. So what you're doing is so heroic, honestly, to keep doing this, but it is so frustrating because it's like banging your head against a wall to keep exposing the corruption and the sadness.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, honestly, in a sane, like healthy media system, the hardest part should be just getting the goods. Yeah. Like it's very, very hard to break any story.
Right.
Particularly one that involves like multiple cover-ups, the governor, health departments, environmental departments. It takes months of digging. It takes longer building sources and building trust.
Yep.
If you're dealing with confidential documents, it takes a lot of work. Then you got to deal with the outlets you're breaking it in. So editors who are a pain in the ass and often don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Right.
Lawyers who are a pain in the ass and often take forever. That should be the hardest part, but it's backwards. For me, it's not easy to break the stories, but the harder part has been getting attraction in the media. Right. It's because like I broke a major story at the beginning of COVID, so I let that one go because nothing else was going to really get through in April 2020 on Flint. But then I broke on a story that I got the governor's phone calls with his chief of staff, his health director, that they were covering up the deadly Legionnaires outbreak 6 months after the water switch. I couldn't get the Michigan media to cover it. I couldn't get national media to cover it. Then I got that the governor's top officials, their phones were mysteriously erased right before the launch of a criminal investigation. Literally the Detroit Free Press, Detroit News, they're telling me, wasn't this kind of known? No, you fucking idiot. It wasn't known. That's why the Guardian published it. So it's just like, I think in some cases there are nefarious reasons the media don't cover it. But it is disheartening because you don't want to just get the information out so you could just get it out. You want it to have impact.
An effect. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very frustrating then when you see the shit that gets results is like, Russiagate and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to say, regardless of, obviously you want to solve these situations. You want to fix it for the people there. That's why you're doing it. But
yes,
one thing that does benefit the left, regardless of the outcome of your reporting, is that it does create a reality for people that is an alternate reality. Like the alternate reality is actually the people watching CNN and MSNBC. But it does keep the left alive in recognizing we're right that the government is doing a disservice to us and our government isn't working. So there are tons of young people that every day are tuning into your show and other shows like it. And whether that bleeds into the older generations that will never see this information, it keeps this side alive in a way. So, it's really important.
Thank you.
Well, honestly,
don't spend too much time at home with your wife and dog. No, I'm kidding.
By the way, just throwing my reporter hat on since we're in America, breaking news, man on a shooting rampage in Memphis. So that's great. Memphis police have issued an alert to be on the lookout for an armed and dangerous man who police say is on a shooting rampage across Memphis. So that's another day, another shooting. But yeah, at the end of the day, although I, haven't gotten the complete impact I want, it does make a difference. I've had Native Americans come up to me and say that if not for you and your cameras, they would have started firing real bullets at Standing Rock. That stuff matters, even if it's because you don't realize sometimes like what you're reporting, how it is perceived to other people. And I've had a lot of Native Americans say that to me. I've had people in Flint tell me that, my reporting has given them hope because I'm the only one covering it. So, it's the little things like that. I don't really I'm never going to win an award. I don't particularly care about that, but it definitely is fulfilling to know that people depend on it. So,
well,
and imagine how much things would be worse if there wasn't your reporting, if there weren't progressive voices on the left screaming against the current administration. If you let them go unchecked entirely, we're double fucked. So,
well, wouldn't it be nice if a lot of other leftists, air quotes, leftists with big platforms would be covering some of these things? I think we'd be getting a lot further. But unfortunately, I don't know about you guys, but I think the left has.
We're in bad shape on the left.
Yes,
we are in fairly bad shape, which is I'm going to bring us around to like a little bit of joy so we can start drinking, because I know we don't have you for the full hour and I want to make sure we hit on some topics of the week. But
go for it.
Part of the reason that we are doing the show that we're doing is because we want to talk about the destruction of this country and the world, but find some joy in community. So we hang out and drink and shoot the shit. So stay with us for as long as you can. And thank you for your work. Please, everybody, go subscribe. If you're able to become a member, Status Coup, a monthly member. I tune into you almost every single day. I really appreciate your voice out there. And I love hearing some of the people you've had on describing, Steve Grumble's really helping me understand the MMT and feel like I can talk about it more freely with people who don't know about it at all. And we love Tina and Ron. So it's fun to see you expanding. It's really cool.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Should we do it?
Get to the
Pat?
wheel.
You
Let's
ready?
go to the wheel.
Let's do it.
Thing just goes on forever.
Oh my God, it really does. I didn't notice it. I'm normally having my second drink right now. All right, what do we have this week? We got Who's Gonna Pay for That? What the Fuck? Political Theater. I'm seeing double already. Back to School and COVID for All 2022 and lots of shots. I'm drinking vodka and Pat is drinking beer.
I've got a local beer, excellent beer, the Hermit, because I've been a hermit since COVID hit and still don't have COVID, knock on wood. So
yeah, me neither.
Let's go.
We're like a couple of the few. I'm trying to read the comment at the same time. It's just the two of us. So it's like my eyes start crossing. Yeah, here we go. Lewis says, Lila's going to get drunk and start smiling for 30 minutes straight. Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate your encouragement. All right, let's spin the wheel.
Yeah, baby.
Yes! Come on, that's the way you always want to start. Hell yes. We always pregame, but then like after the first 20 minutes, I feel like I need to get my juices flowing again. Jordan, are you joining us in drinks?
Still,
I need to leave you.
I'm still actually hungover 2 days after Labor Day. So no.
You just need to work through that, the hair of the dog and all that.
Yeah, peanut butter vodka. Peanut butter whiskey really does it for me.
Oh my God.
Peanut butter whiskey, that's a thing?
Yeah. I've been trying. I've done maple for like a year, and now I'm moving on to peanut butter and cinnamon. So it's good.
Cinnamon, I know. I have not tried peanut butter.
Cheers. Yeah.
All right.
Next time I will partake.
No worries. We're professionals. Don't try this at home, that kind of thing.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Boy, this has been such a crazy manufacturing of outrage, I think, with this whole Dark Brandon / pedo Hitler, which was also trending. Biden's speech, The Soul of a Nation, triggers a MAGA meltdown. Did you watch any of that speech, Jordan?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I saw some of the highlights, and I don't know what was more cringe, the actual speech or the right-wing meltdown after it.
Yeah. First of all, it's so funny to me that was even considered, I guess what the red was really triggering to them, but it was really just a close-up because it was red and blue. But this whole idea of the soul of a nation and that MAGA is the one thing that is preventing our nation from being a democracy is, once again, it just always feels like it's pro wrestling. It's kayfabe, right? It's just like we never get beyond the headlines of we need to restore democracy from the party that tries to sue to get the Green Party off the ballot in 6 states now.
Yeah. And the party that called the Iowa caucus in 2016 for Hillary Clinton when she was up by 1/10 of a point and they called it for her, or the app scandal of 2020 in Iowa. And the list goes on and on and on. Of course, God bless Liz Cheney suddenly cares about democracy now. She
God.
Didn't really care about it when she helped steal the 2000 election. I don't know. The media might want to dust this one out, but In 2014, Princeton came out with a study that said we live in an oligarchy, not a democracy.
Yep.
And I think the number was like 55% of the time, legislation that comes out is what helps the wealthy and the elite. I think it was like less than 10% was popular will.
Right.
So I don't really know how you call it a representative democracy if like 3/4 of the time people don't get what they're elected, what they're voting for. So yeah, I think it's pro wrestling, and I think it's a lot of like branding and marketing. I mean, it's kind of the same cycle every 2-4 years of the same kind of emails. This is the most important election of our lifetime, and we're fighting good versus evil, this and that. I mean, the reality is there are different forms of fascism. You have the growing form here, which is white supremacy, violent conspiracies, nationalism. And then you just have good old corporate fascism, which is what you saw at Standing Rock, which Obama blessed, which you see with the, the various environmental catastrophes that are usually the government protecting corporations. So we have multiple levels of fascism. Democrats are fascists in many ways, and Republicans are fascist in many ways. And yeah, I mean, I'm for a third party, but nobody has actually provided the blueprint. How do you actually unrig the system? Because we've seen what they've done to, obviously, Jill Stein and the Green Party, Matthew Ho recently in North Carolina. I mean, many other candidates. So yeah, we're not a democracy. And frankly, I don't really want to hear Crime Bill Joe talking about this restoring the soul of anything.
Yeah, exactly. Talking about how, we beat, what did he say? We beat Big Pharma. It's the biggest environmental bill ever passed, but it's also the smallest one ever passed. I mean, it's the only one ever passed, but nobody ever like pushes him on that or digs any deeper, right? So like the prescription drugs, is it what, for 10 or 20 drugs? You didn't beat Big Pharma. What are you talking about?
I think it's up to 20 drugs by 2026. So it's not even now.
So CNN could have done what I did, which is have Michael Leidy on. You probably know him, basically the top advocate, expert on Medicare for all in the country. It's 15 drugs in 2026. Then in 2027, I think they add another 20, and then so on for like 2 more years. We don't actually know what the drugs are. They're saying it's insulin. I'll believe it when I see it. And it's done in a very neoliberal, convoluted way where it doesn't actually really drag down the prices so much. The out-of-pocket cap is $2,000. Like, they don't realize most seniors, that's still incredibly expensive. And
they're going to say that one $1,400 check helped cause inflation, but then they're going to say that people should be able to pay $2,000 for their. I mean, you can't have it both ways. It's either a lot of money or it's not.
And the other thing is, people get mad at me. Well, Jordan, you can't be against everything. Well, I don't know. If my house was on fire and the fire department came with a super soaker, that's not good. And this is the historic climate. These are all neoliberal tax incentives. These are, the end of the day, I know people freak out at the term mandate. Well, I'm going to say we need to mandate corporations to immediately shift to wind, solar, and renewable, and have penalties with teeth. You could incentivize till the cows come home, but I got news for you. These incentives for electric vehicles, even with, at the most, you're going to get $9,000 to $10,000 for an electric vehicle. They're still too expensive for most people at this point. And
now in California, they're saying you can't charge your electric vehicles because our power grid is being so overtaxed by the heat, And also because we know big companies would, when we saw it with BP, when they had their big oils, I think they would way rather spend hundreds of millions of dollars in fines than lose the billions of dollars that they get from ravaging our world.
Exactly. So, I mean, technically, is this, better than nothing? Yeah, but you can't really save the planet on the standard, well, it's better than nothing. We're seeing it. I mean, you're in an inferno right now in LA. Kentucky is still, in parts of it are underwater. Look at what's happening, with the storms, the drought. In Spain and Portugal, over 2,000 people died due to a heat wave over the summer. London was burning. I mean, it's fucking insane. And honestly, this would have been good maybe 20 years ago
Right.
to have kind of longer term incentives and stuff like that. But now it's way too late. And frankly, you know, I don't know. Do you think Lyndon B. Johnson, he was a bastard in a lot of ways, you think he'd let Joe Manchin or Kirsten Sinema block his agenda? No, he would have went on a goddamn legal or illegal onslaught to make them fold. So I don't think Joe Biden really wanted this bolder
of course not.
$4 trillion bill. And unfortunately, you know, I don't want to minimize the Roe versus Wade thing, because obviously that's a very, very important thing. I understand why in a lot of people's mind, they're going to put everything aside and just vote based on that. But the Democrats are in a way, very lucky that happened, because it's really the only thing bailing them out.
They are really learning the shittiest lesson. And I will not line up to vote for somebody just for that, because they've been holding us hostage for 50 years, allowing people to die without abortion, access to abortions and access to healthcare. I mean, you know, it's really hard to kind of like parse and split the line, which people are deserving of just any healthcare or only abortions. Okay, COVID treatment's free, but your cancer treatment isn't. And now, of course, COVID treatment is not. I mean, we're so sectioned off. I'm really frustrated that Democrats are going to learn the wrong lesson and feel justified in not codifying something that should have been done decades ago.
Right.
But yeah, I know he's doing well now.
Without the press ever pointing these things out to people, there's no chance of these things changing. I mean, you've got literally rainwater is undrinkable in the entire world now. A chunk of Greenland is going to fall into the ocean and raise seawaters by a foot. These are things that are just done now. And we're in a pandemic. We're not out of a pandemic, and we're in a pandemic, and we're not any closer to a lick of healthcare.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all the urgency, if they've survived literally the end of the human race, we're getting past that point where the human race can exist on this planet. And that didn't trigger some sort of reaction from, you know, normie Democratic people. They've gotten away with what they want. And like, what's our off ramp to actually get us out of any of these bad situations? Everything looks like it's going to continue to get worse. And I don't see, you know, the younger generations are only hope. The strikes out there are only hope. The union efforts are only hope. You know, we have to disrupt capitalism in some way that gets attention that the media can't ignore. And we haven't hit that point yet, even in a pandemic.
Right.
Which is what I'm afraid of.
I also think, you know, I say it a lot, and I put the disclaimer, I don't mean this for every boomer, but for a large chunk of the baby boomer generation, there needs to be a bit of a shame campaign because they're the ones, by and large, that keep electing these people. It is on the young people for not coming out as consistently as older people and voting, but election after election, I mean, Biden largely won because he cleaned the floor, mopped the floor with Bernie, 65 and up. And that's who votes by and large. He also did better, like 50 to 65. But frankly, I think the baby boomer generation has, not all of them, because there's a lot of progressives in that generation, but by the data, a lot of them have this kind of, you know, I got mine mentality.
Yeah.
And the younger generation stopped complaining. And I think that's a problem. And those are the people that are fed by MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post. And they are basically just, I mean, my parents, for example, who are boomers, my dad is like a big Trumper, not really for like, my dad just cares about Israel. He's like a major Zionist. So like if Obama would have moved the embassy, that would have been it. We don't really talk about it anymore because it just leads to fighting. But when I show my parents who both voted for Trump, a lot of the shit I cover, their first reaction normally is, why isn't the rest of the media covering this? So it's not that people don't care. Most people don't actually know what's going on. A lot of older people don't really understand climate change, in my experience, or understand how many extra jobs people are having to work in the younger generation. There are a certain proportion that know, but just don't give a shit.
Right.
But there's also a lot of people that just are totally uninformed because the news they consume doesn't inform them. And then there's a lot of older people I've seen that have kind of become complacent with corruption. Well, that's politics. That's how it works. And
would you rather have Trump?
Right. Exactly.
It's always that. Yeah.
Well, that's what I've found is I can convince anyone I know who's a normal centrist Democrat to believe anything I want progressive by showing them the data and the facts. But then they could agree 100%, but then something happens from the Republican Party and all they will talk about after that is how we have to just elect Joe Biden or how we, the other side is worse. I don't care to hear about that anymore. It takes them out. And because they're so susceptible to that, the media can overnight convince them of dooming a threat on the right that is so bad that everything else can be discarded overnight.
Empathetic Joe. Yeah.
Right.
Which is what happened with Bernie. I mean, Bernie was polling way ahead, and I don't want to make it about Bernie, but they were able to convince the public that the threat of Trump winning in a week, they convinced them in a week to abandon all their beliefs and everything that Bernie had sold them to believe was gone. So they have that power over us still, but the younger generation is our only hope because they are feeling the pain of all this stuff. They are not going to let this stuff go.
Yeah. I also think, I think Bernie made a couple key mistakes too. And I think unfortunately, because I think a lot of the people that got involved in the Bernie wave were people that were never interested in politics. He brought millions of people into the system that just never were into it. And he brought a lot of people who were checked out and checked them back in. Yeah. And I think because people got caught up in the whole political revolution and all this stuff, they kind of maybe got sucked into the thinking that we could just topple this thing very quickly. Yeah. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. This system was not corrupted overnight. It's taken about 40, 50 years to become this bad. But I think Bernie, if the progressive movement hadn't been hijacked to me by a lot of charlatans and grifters, I think that we should have looked at it as you know what? We were just kind of on the 5-yard line of winning the Democratic nomination with an actual progressive. He's not perfect, but certainly an actual progressive that could have won the Democratic nomination. Here are the mistakes that he made, and there were many. And instead of, now going into a circular firing squad for YouTube clicks and being in fetal position because Biden won, we were close. Let's learn some lessons and get back out there. We didn't do that. I also think Bernie, I appreciate everything he has done, but I think he's kind of left his activism and army kind of at the gates. I don't think he's been tapping into his massive organizing network. Yeah, I think he's made a lot of mistakes since the campaign. So I actually think the progressive movement after Bernie lost the second time was not as far as we feel we are now. But I think we've in many ways defeated ourselves by fighting each other. Then you have people who say, I'm done with it. If they have a D next to the name, I'm not voting. I don't care if it's Jesus. And at the end of the day, for about a week, we were on the 5-yard line of winning the Democratic nomination. I think Bernie, in my opinion, a lot of people wouldn't like it. After New Hampshire, he should have sent Elizabeth Warren flowers, apologized for whatever fucking snake emojis triggered her, offered her the vice presidency, and got her to drop out. And a lot of his supporters wouldn't have liked it. But if she would have dropped out, a lot of the states he lost on Super Tuesday were very close losses. Right. And the difference was actually that Warren was still on the ballot because she hadn't dropped out early enough. Right. I think when he's on 60 Minutes as the Democratic frontrunner and you get an obvious baited question to praise Fidel Castro, you should have fucking said, I'm running for president of the United States, not Cuba, Anderson. And I have a message for your audience, some of whom, I mean, their 60 Minutes is mostly old people, who have been fed some misinformation about me. I worked with John McCain to pass veterans this. I was the amendment king. I get things done and I can work across the aisle. And some of his base wouldn't have liked it. But Bernie, when he's had chances to tweak his message, when he had chances to go for the jugular against Hillary Clinton, Biden, he let Biden get away with murder about his civil rights marching, which he never did. So
we have a whole bit on that today.
Yeah, Bernie made a lot of mistakes. So I don't think the progressive movement was or is as far as we feel we are. We just need leaders that learn from the mistakes of the last and do it differently the next time.
So who do you
I
think
agree.
is going to primary? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, it probably is the same question you're going to ask, but I agree, except that I don't see who the leaders are stepping forward post Bernie. I don't see anyone consolidating on a national level, any support other than, AOC.
But she's kind of faded. She's completely absent on COVID and the war in Ukraine. And then, they're going to try and push Beto and Gavin Newsom as our new progressive heroes. And we all know that they're not. So, yeah, I don't know who the next person.
AOC.
We don't have a wide yet.
My producer just sent me AOC did another magazine cover, this time with GQ. So she's very busy.
That'll play well.
Yeah. I mean, to tell you the truth, I agree with you. I think that at this point, short of just health collapse or something like that, I think Biden, I think the Democrats are going to keep the Senate. They'll probably lose the House, but it won't be by a landslide like it was going to be. Right. If Biden's able to keep talking somewhat, lucidly, I think he'll run again. If he runs again, I don't really see like Gavin Newsom or I think Gavin Newsom is suddenly doing things just on the chance that Biden doesn't run again.
Right.
But I think that, on the progressive end, it's slim pickings. You have maybe Marianne Williamson runs. I like Marianne Williamson a lot. I don't know if she'd actually, I don't know if she'd be competitive. She might.
Yeah.
Help.
I like her a lot. I don't see her galvanizing the troops.
I think I don't have any inside information, but I think, ironically, I think Nina Turner might have a better chance winning the presidency than winning that district in Cleveland. Or at least at this point, yes, we want to win, but I also think we need somebody to just fucking rally the troops again and get a little representation and get a little fight.
Yeah.
I also think we need somebody that while they're running is also tapping into this union movement, the worker strikes, because it's amazing. It's amazing to me seeing all these YouTubers who claim to be the pure leftists. They barely cover the union movement around the country, the worker strikes, the amount of workers quitting, tenant unions are popping up. I mean,
that's where all our energy should be.
Exactly. It's not the most viral topics, but it's actually stuff getting results. But I don't really see a ton of coverage aside from like Breaking Points covers it. I cover it. But I don't really see a lot of other big networks covering those things.
Yeah, no, it terrifies them coming for their money. All right. Should we do another? Should we move on? Do you have more you want to say?
Yeah, I got another 10 minutes.
Okay. Should we spin the wheel? See if we find something.
We got
fun?
one wheel spin. Let's do the wheel.
Let's get going here.
We had a million things on that topic, but it would just get boring.
Yeah, baby.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about. That is what, because after this, I got to go have dinner with my husband and kids. I better they expect me to be happy by the time I get to the table. Cheers. Ugh. All right.
Tasty.
Yeah, baby.
What a disaster. I know we're in the post-COVID era, but this is what the map of the United States looks like right now with no COVID mitigations, protections in place anywhere at all. Mask off, return to normal. What do you think?
Oh God. Oops. I don't mean to laugh.
Yeah, and you got 10.5 million children were orphaned or lost a primary caregiver due to COVID, study finds. So I mean, the big key for the government to minimize COVID.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but they have to ignore long COVID and the effect on children, which is huge. Yeah. And they know that masks work.
I mean, that's something that our country could be doing, right? The urgency of safety, because the truth is when you say return to normal, it's still not normal. People are still going to the hospital. Pediatric wings are being filled up. I think there's now like 1,800 kids have died of COVID. That's not normal. So you can pretend that it's over, but COVID's still happening, you know?
I just think like, you have kids. I don't have kids yet, but could you imagine just like feeding, hey, your kid's going to get the flu 3 times this year, but it's okay. You know, like it's just really insane.
Yeah.
And just anecdotally, a friend of mine has had long COVID. So I called John Hopkins, which is one of the only big hospitals with a long COVID unit. You know how long it is to get an appointment now? Over a year in their long COVID unit, because they're just consumed with calls and people that need care. A new report came out that a third of the people they're saying, oh, there's plenty of jobs, just people aren't filling them. A third of the people aren't filling them because they have long COVID. It's just crazy to me that it's almost like there was like a conference call one morning and all the politicians and all the media were on it and they all got on the same script that it's normal, 400 people dying a day. We don't even need to discuss it. The hospital's still kind of filled. I think 40 to 50,000 in the emergency room. Then there was basically a changing of redefining what a COVID patient is in
with
hospitals.
COVID exactly.
So we're going to lower the numbers by changing the definition of what a COVID patient is. There's been all sorts of cherry picking. DeSantis, who gets credit in some quarters for how he handled COVID. In fact, he did more to cover up COVID than corrupt Cuomo did in New York. We don't even know how many people died in Florida. And it's just this slow moving mass disabling event. And the truth is, as more and more stuff comes out, you hear crazy, horrible things about what it does to your heart, your brain. So yeah, it's really horrible. I get human, the human condition. You tire of things. It's been a real bitch on my end to travel with all this going on. I mean, my wife is immunocompromised. So when I'm on the road, obviously we're away from each other when I'm on the road, but when I come back, we quarantine for another 5-6 days. So I could be gone from my wife for like 2 weeks. And it's just very difficult. To me, this just shows how sick we are as a country, not just that corporations won out in this, but also how this became a political issue in the first place. It should have never been a political issue. Honestly, to me, we should have done draconian things in the beginning. Sorry. You should have just shut the fucking whole thing down, pay people to stay home. We should have done it probably for 2 months to just try and zap as best as we can in the immediate. Obviously, it wouldn't have totally defeated COVID. And frankly, one of the biggest scandals is the fact that AOC, the squad, Bernie, they should have been fucking galvanizing people to be on the White House gates and forcing Biden to take over the patent from Moderna and Pfizer, because that's why we have variant after variant, because we haven't shared the formula with the rest of the third world. Because Biden wants to talk about taking it to Big Pharma. Well, he has kissed the ring of Big Pharma, who we paid for their research to even make these vaccines. So I could go on and on, but it makes me sick. And frankly, it really angers me to see, the Jimmy Dores of the world and all these other people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, don't do any research. They see a headline from some outlet that basically
it's like self-referential,
reaches the conclusion that they've already reached. And then they go live to 20,000 people spewing bullshit. Same thing with Joe Rogan and others. And then it's like this debate bro culture. Well, let's debate it. No, I'm not going to debate you. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I say, I don't know what I'm talking about, but let me have an epidemiologist on that's somewhat reputable. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have died because of misinformation in this. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to get sicker and sicker.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, to me, it gives fuel to people. Like, I'm not a fraud squad person, never have been, never will be. But where are progressive leaders, Bernie included, why aren't they fighting harder for COVID protections? Like right now, this is not some abstract thing like climate change that's 20 years down the road or something. This is right now, our health, I mean, we're talking like Bernie couldn't muster up, get us some support for masking in schools or ventilation systems in schools. Like these are, he could hold a press conference and get massive attention to this issue and not do it on his own, pull in all these epidemiologists, scientists. I wish they would fight, and I don't understand why they aren't. I mean, you know,
honestly, Bernie, it's not an excuse. I almost think Bernie's just fucking tired. I really can't blame him. I mean, he's been doing this for 50 years. I think he just barnstormed the country at like 77 to 80 years old. So I can't like knock. I mean, I do criticize him, but in terms of the squad, I honestly, like, I don't know if it's naivete, if they've gotten sucked into this. Well, we got to play the long game here. We got to be diplomatic. We have to have good relationships with our Democratic colleagues to win them over to our side. Yeah, we have to, you know, I think AOC, frankly, likes attention a lot, likes to be in the news. I'm not minimizing that she gets a lot of death threats and this and that, but I look at people like her, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, all these people started as activists. Yeah, I mean, and they got in there and they left the activists at the door.
They sure did.
And I think there was a lot of, particularly for Medicare for All. I'm with you, Pat. I wasn't like a fraud squad person, but I was a forced to vote person. I didn't make it like a political litmus test that if you're not for it, you're dead to me. Same. But I thought if you're not gonna shame them now and Biden now, because when are you going to? Same thing with $15 minimum wage. Like they folded on that. They let Biden walk away from it, citing the parliamentarian. Well, that was like 2 years ago. Why haven't they forced the issue now? By the way, if it passed today, it would be staggered and wouldn't even take an effect fully for another 4 or 5 years. So by the time you get a $15 minimum wage, it's essentially, with inflation and rise of cost
it's not
of living,
even enough right now. It's not enough.
So I think we basically have, I don't know what to call them, but they're not doing what they said they were going to do. They didn't even show up for Nina Turner the second time. They didn't endorse her because they were threatened that if they did.
Appalling.
Yeah. So, I think I think I learned a lesson through Bernie. Don't put all your apples in like one. If Bernie was president right now, we would not have Medicare for all, or we would, and it would be challenged in court because he would have done something through executive action.
Right.
So we're not going to get to the promised land by one president or just a couple Congress people. I'm not saying electoral politics doesn't matter. It does matter to elect people, but we need to elect people who not only that they share the same values, but they are demonstrating that they're willing to fight. That's why I kind of, when I was covering Nina and I heard these people saying, she's a sellout. I'm like, what do you have, amnesia? Like, did the last 5 years not happen? Like she left, she unendorsed Hillary Clinton, basically. She went to Bernie when he was not like some big thing, when he was just a ragtag campaign. And she's gone around the country for 5 years trying to elect an old Jewish socialist. So maybe she didn't come to your march, but I think we need people that have a little Shama Sawant in them.
Absolutely.
On a congressional level.
Yeah. And I mean, it is really discouraging that, after Obama dismissed his activist base, I would have thought that Bernie would not do that. It was really depressing when he dropped out. I do think that he could have fought harder, but I understand there were a lot of factors, COVID being a huge one. I mean, I do think things would have probably played out differently, possibly, but then to just basically, I think he could have engaged all of us a lot more faster and not try to reach, not across the aisle, but like not try to smooth everything over with his dear friend Joe so quickly, because we were all there ready to go. I mean, we could have kept moving forward. And now it's just massively depressing to see, like, we can't even get together online without having meltdowns.
But I want to just say that I think what he showed was that we have the power to do stuff. And so the labor movement now fighting is a direct result of Bernie. Absolutely. I don't want to put it all on Bernie and all the labor movements that have been working independently, but the national acceptance of and the support for all these, like tomorrow or today, all the teachers, 6,000 teachers in Seattle went on strike.
Yep.
And that wouldn't have, I don't think that would have happened and had this much acceptance publicly if it wasn't for Bernie. So I'm not
Amazon and Starbucks. I mean, all of those kids often when you've interviewed them, they talk about that's where they started, right? They were kind of woken up by Bernie. So, I'll always be grateful to that for sure.
Yeah. But
and I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of YouTube channels, Jimmy included, who bitch about the squad. I don't see any of these people protesting outside their offices. I'm not saying be violent, but they're politicians, organized protests, the squad, Bernie, I don't show up with hashtag fraud squad, but pressure them just like anyone else. Right. Maybe they need a little pressure from the people who voted. But you want to know something? It's great that AOC got arrested or whatever it was for Roe v. Wade. That's pretty easy to do.
Right.
Pressure her to activate the base, to get out in front of the White House and do something on healthcare, do something on climate. Because you want to know something? Biden, bare minimum, he did 10,000, not because of AOC, student loans I'm talking about, but because of the debt collective and a lot of these activist groups. So imagine if you had the progressives actually thumbing their nose at Biden. And we can't keep being in this cycle that they're afraid to do so because, they don't want to be blamed if the Republicans win. They're going to fucking blame you regardless if the Republicans win. So,
Yeah, if the Republicans win, it's because we listen to the left. And if the Democrats win, it's because we rejected the left and reached across the aisle to the right. So, I mean, it's...
You got it. So, I do have to run, though. So
all right, Jordan, you're amazing. Thank you for coming on. Everybody follow Jordan, subscribe, and thank you for your amazing reporting. I tune into you every day. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. I will booze up next time.
Yeah, definitely. Feel
All right,
better.
take care.
All
Thanks,
right,
Jordan.
bye.
Hey, where are you headed to next, by the way? Do we ask you got something coming up?
Probably Flint.
Back to Flint?
I'm working on another story there, so probably there.
Thank you.
Another story. Jesus.
Good for
Anyway,
you.
Cheers. Appreciate you.
Cheers, Jordan. Thank you. He's amazing. So grateful for his reporting. And, going out there, I think he's had COVID a couple times now. It's not like without its risk what he's doing. All right, let's spin the wheel one more time at least, right?
What? I like the at least because we got to go twice at least.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, there we go.
Thank goodness. All righty. Wait, I gotta pour it. Sorry, I'm like, oh, now I can let my freak flag fly. Now that Jordan's gone, I had to try to have some sort of civility there.
Yeah, well, I just let you talk because I don't have anything to say.
All right, let's do it.
Oops. I'm pressing the wrong screen.
I want to get to that Hunter Biden movie clip to show everybody. That'll put you all in good spirits.
You know what? Can I admit that you added a couple clips I want to watch and I haven't watched them yet? So I'm saving my reaction
baby.
for the show. That's going to be a
Yes,
shot.
yes, sir. I knew we could do it.
This one went evil. Do I remove it? No, I'm going to keep it on there.
Let's keep it.
Let's keep it.
All right.
All right,
Ready? Cheers, everybody. Wait, peanut butter vodka? Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's interesting.
You know what?
I could have made the whole show. I was quiet because I could have made the whole show about peanut butter vodka. I asked too many questions. We'd never talk politics. So I
want to get like grape Crystal Light with peanut butter vodka.
Okay.
Oh, peanut butter whiskey. You're right, Dave. It was peanut butter whiskey.
Whiskey. Yeah.
I've had
much
the cinnamon. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just hate vodka. So much better.
Really?
Yeah,
I've known you
like
for a while now, and I'm learning new things. I didn't know that about you. How are we friends when I'm like guzzling vodka?
But
you've never said that to me before.
You're mixing it with a drink and making a cocktail, right? I mean, that's different.
Not in my shot glass.
Oh, all right. Well, let's spin the wheel.
All right, let's spin it. PB&J on the rock.
Yeah, baby.
I mean, kind of already covered it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm kind of glad we hit it because we
All right,
kind of
tell me.
merged the things and we have
I
a bunch of
know.
COVID stuff.
Okay. All right.
I mean, basically, you guys have seen how COVID has taken over the whole world. That's been like that for months. Nobody gives a crap. Biden is
declared it over. COVID no longer controls our lives, he said. I mean, hasn't he had it 3 times now? What the hell is he talking about?
I mean, look, long COVID. If you get COVID 2 or 3 times, you're very likely to end up developing long COVID. And
absolutely,
if that was a discussion and our normally Democratic friends knew the risk of actually getting long-term disability from exposure a couple times, I think the general public would have a different outlook on COVID. But what they're doing is they're well, just I just want to hit this real quick. This is an obvious thing, but this kind of sums it up because what they're doing is manufacturing consent to minimize COVID. Oops, I'm on the wrong side. So they're hiding the data about high COVID transmission. They're removing signs stating mask requirements in public spaces. They're claiming the public is tired, even though all the polls always say, if there's a risk, the public is cool with masks. So they're removing the mask mandate based on false claims. So just now, today or yesterday, New York changed their public transit rules to where you don't have to wear masks in public transit. So the subway in New York, the hub of America, where everyone comes into America and then goes out to the rest of the US, no longer requires masks. And not only do they not require masks, this is their new sign that's literally up in the subway.
That makes me so mad. Masks are encouraged but optional. Yes. Yes. You do you. And yes. I mean, that's why, the whole idea that like, oh, it's been politicized. I mean, yeah, originally it was politicized. But I guess on some level, you have to say that when all of the public health experts and the CDC are going to lie to the public in order to run cover for the Biden administration and get everyone back to work so they can say mission accomplished for Biden, that is a politicization of the science.
Right.
But right now, you can't tell the difference between Republicans and Democrats on COVID. You don't need to get vaxxed. You don't need to mask. You don't need to isolate. You don't need to stay away from work for 5 days.
Oops, how do we get that other banner off? But so
I got it.
You got it. You can handle, I don't have the technology over here. So the latest thing they're pushing, which is subtle, but it's out there, is that 1 booster a year is probably going to be good enough. And as the doctor here says, health insurers will soon be responsible for the cost of COVID vaccination. So naturally, they're deploying pandemic pundits out in the world to gaslight the public in accepting that an annual dose is sufficient because it's convenient or whatever. So the science does not support a once a year booster at all at this point. All the science
because there's so many variants.
Efficacy wanes after 4 to 6 months. There's nothing saying an annual booster should be good for you. But now that the government is going to get out of paying for it, and people are going to have to be responsible on their own, there's a measured response there's a calculated response by the big pharma that, well, we can convince people to buy a once a year vaccine.
Right.
But twice a year, no, it's bad PR. So we'll just go for the once a year thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's horrible. And, there is this very strange thing happening. I really don't know any Republicans, but with liberals who kind of want to minimize it and are shocked that I haven't had it. My husband hasn't had it. My younger son hasn't had it. Well, come on, everybody's going to get it. There's this thing of like, I've had it, you can have it. It's just like the flu. And I said to one of our friends the other day who's had it, and he was like, it wasn't a big deal. It's just like the flu. I was like, well, what's interesting is when the next pandemic comes or the next variant comes and you're bedridden or die, your death will be excused and dismissed blithely as, well, he had a precondition or a comorbidity. Because once you've had COVID, you are now considered somebody with a precondition. So, it is a mass disabling event, and it is going to have decades long repercussions. But it is interesting to see how quickly liberals and Republicans came together on the same capitalist page
The
of Get
same
Back to
narrative.
Work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But
Hey, Whitaker.
I think if people really knew, and this is why I won't shut up about it. People are like, "Oh, you're always bitching about COVID." Like it's the crisis we're facing right now more than these other things. I mean,
Yep.
it's not abstract. We all have, it's out there right now. Are you pushing buttons? Because it's not letting me.
I didn't do that.
Uh,
Did you do that?
Sorry. I just did that. So asymptomatic people are almost half of the people that are infected with COVID, and they can carry the virus and transmit it for up to 14 days.
Yep.
14 days asymptomatic. So don't you think?
And we don't even
masks
talk
are like
about
the
that anymore,
the
right?
dumbest, easiest thing?
Yeah.
No, because they made it, they pushed the narrative that 5 days if you're sick is good enough. But
Yeah.
even if you're not sick, you could be 2 weeks spreading this thing. So if you want this thing to go away, it's never going to go away. And if you add the fact that it's never going to go away to the fact that if you get it 2 or 3 times, you're very likely to have long COVID, which would
Right.
disable you possibly for your entire fucking life. I
Yeah.
think that would change how people act around COVID.
Yeah. In a country with no universal health care, where we have now, study after study has shown that a third of the people who died of COVID, so that would be now what, at 350,000 people, their lives would have been saved if we had Medicare for all, some form of universal health care in this country.
Yep. And meanwhile, so how do we get out of this situation? A nasal spray that works is a game changer. It's like nobody is talking about an actual off-ramp from the pandemic because they want to pretend there is no pandemic. But the difference with a nasal vaccine, which China just approved one today. Iran has already given one to hundreds of thousands of people. We don't have results from it yet, but the difference with the nasal vaccine is it creates an immune response actually in your nasal passages. I don't know. I don't want to get scientific.
So it doesn't
here,
even get into your system.
Yeah. So it's not waiting on a whole body response in different ways. It triggers different responses from your immune system to where you don't get sick. So right now our vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting sick generally. It might for a lot of people, but the reason you want this vaccine is you don't die, more likely to not die. But once you get to this level where you don't get sick, you're not a carrier. You don't spread the disease. You could actually get COVID out of the country. You know, it's an actual game changer. And we're not focused on that because
there's not a lot of money in that.
Well, there's not a lot of money in it. And the public is sold on this idea, and the government wants to push this idea that the vaccines we have are working. And if they say we need something else, it minimizes it weakens their argument that we're all good now and we have protections.
Yeah. Yeah. And we saw, I mean, I know we shared it a couple weeks ago, but the Pfizer shareholders call where they were saying, well, now that the country's opened up again, people are going to get sick, which is really good news for Paxlovid. We're going to have to sell lots of that. So, shares are going to be up. There are going to be more variants because more people are out there. So we're going to need boosters every year. It's a boon for them. It's amazing.
And is the mainstream media talking about how Paxlovid, this hero drug, which is sold to everyone as this tool that saves you, doesn't work? It was the latest study on it shows that it doesn't work for people under 50.
Awesome.
So if you're exposing your kids to COVID and unmasking in schools, if you're a normal person who just watches TV, you think, well, worst case, they got Paxlovid. If they get it, we'll give them Paxlovid. Yeah. Well, the study shows it had no effect.
The tools
on people. Yeah, the tool's not there for your kid. I mean, there might be other things, but for that to be such a critical part, Paxlovid is a critical part of Biden being able to come out and say that we have the tools, and it doesn't work on people under 50. And we're starting schools now and they don't have ventilation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know we've kind of like mushed 2 different categories, but with back to school, it's 115 degrees where I live right now. And I'm reading all of these posts from parents at, in LAUSD in the public schools, and they don't have air conditioning in their rooms. So it's 40 kids in a room, no mask, 115 degrees before you start cramming bodies in there.
Right.
And just breathing in each other's air.
And clearly no air circulation, because when it's that
Right.
humid and hot, there
Yeah.
is no circulation of the air. I mean,
Yeah.
as someone who lives right now in 116-degree weather,
Yeah.
I can tell you there's no wind here.
Yeah. It's not good. All right, we better spin it one more time and we better land on. Yeah.
What do you want?
Exactly.
Let's do a shot.
They're putting
I need
all
to grab
of the
another
people-
beer, so I'm going to spin it.
What? Okay, hurry up. You're going to spin it first?
Oops.
Wait,
Wait
it's
a
not
minute.
on the thing. Ah, there you go. One last shot.
Yay.
One last
That's
shot for the road. And then I do think that we have to wait, let me take it off. I think we have to show that. Has everyone seen the Hunter Biden movie? We
that
have so
under-
many great. Well, it's the
Is that our what the fuck? I
it's
think we should
just
just
the what the
let's just
fuck.
go through our what the fucks.
I think we
Yeah.
need to show it. Yeah. Okay, wait, but you have to do a shot. Is everybody ready? Get your shot. Get your shot. Wait. Okay. Oh, cheers, Pat. Just
I want to
go
show
ahead
a
and down
few.
the
Oh,
hatch.
cheers. You know I don't have social manners.
I know. Okay.
The Hermit. That's why I'm drinking the Hermit.
All right. Should we just show it? Can you guys
Let's
handle
show-
it?
Let's
Yeah,
show
go ahead.
all our, well, not all, but most of our what the fucks, minus
Okay,
that
okay.
one. that started.
Well, let's start.
Gets
Let's
us in
start
the
with
drama.
our good empathetic president, don't you think?
This one,
Oh well, yeah.
Obama, who just got an Emmy. Let's start with him.
Let's go, Obama. This
That's cute.
14
Let's just leave that alone.
Yeah,
Because
all right.
yeah, fuck Obama.
Should we just show Biden
Well, let's-
really fast? It's a quick one.
Let's hear from.
Oh my God.
You know how much? You know how much I'm reducing the deficit this year?
All right, that was just silly and funny. This is creepy and gross, but just to know he still has it.
Thank you. How are you, baby? How old are you? How old are you? Almost double figures. Well, look, folks.
I just have to, okay, so he's so disgusting and creepy, but also what's on his mind that he says almost double figures?
Double.
Nobody says that. You say double digits. So he's talking to this young girl. She's 9. He should just like ixnay on the talking to girls ever in public and sniffing.
Baby to anyone other than an actual baby that doesn't know what you're saying. You don't call them
Yeah.
fucking baby.
And oh, he's just so vile. Every part of him is vile. All right. But now
We show Hillary or Biden. Hillary or Biden. What do we do?
I
Let's show
mean
the Biden.
okay, yeah, go ahead. Go, do it.
I haven't seen this yet. Both these clips
Okay.
I haven't seen.
Get ready.
But this one won't
to
make me
vomit
sick
in your
like the
mouth.
Hillary clip will.
Yeah. Okay, go.
So I'll tell you what's going down.
You know who I am.
They told me you were VIP. Well connected to the government.
What kind of a moron forgets to pick up his laptop at a repair shop? You're a Biden. Act like one. Everything he built, his life, I just ruined it all. I want to know everything that's on that laptop that can ruin my erection. My friends, it's time to party!
Yeah, didn't you know? I'm taking control. I make an appearance and I gotta go. Cause I get them dancing with their hands up. Yeah, I walk in and they go bananas. I'm a bad, yeah.
I'm an artist.
And they're cheering my
Tell me how I can help you.
I don't deserve help. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I've been through worse.
You're the smartest man I know. Thanks, Dad. I just wish I could speak some sense into you. I'll never forget Corn Pop. He was a bad dude. No joke. Dad, we were talking about suffering. No.
I can't seem to find anything but positive stuff on the Bidens.
Who's the point man for the foreign policy in the Obama regime? Joe Biden. So it looks like you need $1 billion.
So the obvious next question is,
Where's Hunter? I can remember getting paid some money, but I can't remember what for. Well, my dad says we never discuss my businesses, period. Or my cut.
what's happening in there? Joe's in on it.
Party's over!
You had everything, Hunter, and you threw it all away. You hope the laptop will take down everybody with you.
Get out! China's not our enemy. They're not bad folks. I love my dad.
I'm gonna watch
I
it.
just want to make him proud. I am the one who brings in all the deals. I am the one. The boy.
Wow.
I mean, that looks delicious. Come on.
So is that like, I just need to know, is that a right wing like radical thing or sort of a?
I think Robert Davi, who I didn't know I didn't know much about him, but you would recognize him. But I think he's the director. And then Gina Carano, who she's been blacklisted.
She's the Kung Fu karate.
Yeah, from liberal Hollywood for being a Trump supporter.
Right.
And Ware says that Breitbart is involved. Interesting.
I'm watching the shit out of that movie though. That's hilarious.
Oh, it's bad. Yeah, they do kind of make him look cool, but like at least that is just like gross and cringy, but sort of fun, sensationalist stuff.
Do I have to watch this? I reserve the right to turn off this video.
Yeah, I think we probably
going.
will not make it through the whole thing. Go ahead. This is the flip side.
I'm not pushing the button unless I really am actually puking.
Okay, here we go. We're hitting the road to shine a light on women who inspire us to be bolder and braver.
Leadership doesn't look one way. It's a giant rainbow.
You're not gonna break me down. You'll get worn out before I do.
Women who push us outside our comfort zone.
You got this.
And make us laugh.
I'm in deep Georgia, and they might have never met a Muslim.
Or they don't know they have.
Or they don't know they have because we walk among you.
You have a marriage that has been on public display since the beginning. You said the gutsiest thing you ever did was stay in your marriage. That doesn't mean that's right for everybody.
To throw someone's life away when people really do make changes. I just believe in second chances.
My mother needed rehabilitation, not prison.
Your survival is your power.
Someone say to me, you're not good enough because you have melanin. How dare you?
I have a master's in whites. I just want whites to get a GED in blacks.
Every single person makes some impact on the planet every single day. We can choose what sort of difference we make.
Speak truth to power. When I throw rocks, I'm throwing them up.
We're gonna go buy the house where we got married.
This is where it all started.
And the rest is history.
Cheers.
By putting down the bad things and lifting up the good things, we bring balance to the world.
You literally become one with yourself.
I'm gonna live like I've never lived before.
What the fuck?
That's so bad.
God damn you. God damn you.
Wait, why can't it come
you
off?
can't get it off the screen.
Oh my God, it's
like
horrible.
stuck.
Also, it's making me like dislike everybody who was in it with her. And a few of them I had actually liked before that.
I was already on the way of getting sick of Amy Schumer, but holy fuck. Like you're going to be in a pro-Clinton video, you're gone.
You know that, what's his name? Schumer is, Chuck Schumer is her uncle. Did you know that?
No, there's a connection. I did not.
There is a connection. Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up. Another shot soon after that. I saw so many really good, so great things over here, and I want to get to all of them. You guys give me so much joy. Thank you for hanging out with us for an hour and a half. Seriously, it just is feeling super bleak, and I really look forward to this time with everybody. Thank you. And also, I just want to remind everyone we are on iTunes now. I feel so like the jerk, like we're in the phone book. But
Hey,
we are, yeah.
We have never done this, I don't think, but like and subscribe. We're supposed to say that.
Oh, yeah. Smash that
never-
like. Is that what you're saying? Is that what the kids
Yes.
say? Smash that like
I don't
button.
know. I don't know. We're gonna get started on our TikTok dance videos. I hope you guys
Hell
like
yeah.
them and share.
Thanks, you guys. Keep in good spirits. Cheers, and keep punching up. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Jordan. Also, bye.